So Vortex, I was thinking about depression. A lot of people whine about this. And I know that I sound like an insensitive cunt sore whenever I use the word whine to describe these pieces of shit. But I've been dealing with this my entire life. And I used to be one of these pieces of shit, okay? Because I chose Satan. I chose Satan. I went along with psychiatry. I went along with therapy. And I will say that the only therapists that were worth a damn were the ones that worked on a sliding scale for a church. Mainly because they were doing it for the right reason. They wanted to legitimately help people, and the only way that you can legitimately help people is through a church, okay? Now, I get the fact that there's all kinds of corruption and molestation and abuse in churches, okay? And that's not just the Catholic Church, that's literally all of them, okay? I'm sure that that's happened in the Orthodoxy as well. I know it happens in mosques, I know that it happens in synagogues, I know that it happens in these like New Age churches, or like whatever they call the Church of Science, or the Process Church, rather. So, I understand why people look at any kind of church-related thing as dangerous. But, you know, I don't get that experience from my church, but I really had to, like, search and seek for the one that I go to. And, I'm pretty sure that nobody in there is doing anything weird. But, you know, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I would sniff it out, because I'm pretty good at sniffing that sort of thing out. Yeah, it seems to me, though, that the main reason why people turn away from the church, and the reason why they turn away from God and Jesus altogether, is because of all of the hypocrisy. I hear that reason way more than molestation or abuse. It's just mainly the hypocrisy. Now, I've been told by a lot of people long before I became a Christian that, like, they assumed I was a Christian because of the way that I talked about God and, you know, the way that I treated people. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't mistreated people, and that doesn't mean that I haven't done really terrible, debaucherous things, like slut it up and steal shit and drink to the point of extinction, okay? I used to do all of that, and then some. But that's because I was being possessed by the devil, and I really do believe this. I really believe that it is spirits that chase after us, especially if they know that we have this gift. And I think that that's what's happening with people that have depression. And if you live in the secular world, which we obviously do, the kind of suggestions that you're going to receive are naturally going to be secular. They're going to tell you to go to a psychiatrist, get hopped up on a bunch of pills, and then you're going to have to take pills for the pills for the pills for the pills, because you're going to have so many side effects that it's not even worth it. You might as well just stay depressed, you know? But anxiety is the same way. And it can definitely be an addiction. You know, like whenever you get all sulky, it's like you just want to keep going down, like further and further and further. I know that Marc has talked about this. But, I mean, he's talked about it in relation to anger, but I think that it's true about all negative emotions. And I think it's a lot harder, you know, to maintain happiness. You know, because happiness is very, very fleeting. So whenever you're happy, it's just such a glorious thing that you experience. But it's so short-lived, you know, compared to, like, other things that aren't so much fun. But I realize, though, that the more that I accept those negative things, the more that I accept the fact that, you know, I get really sad sometimes and I just cry it out. Not only am I not a pansy, but I'm able to accept happiness whenever it comes, and I'm not, like, suspicious of it. And I used to be very, very suspicious of it, because I was so addicted to negative feelings. But that all changed when I started doing stand-up, because I was finding a way to release all of the things that have been lodging inside of my head all throughout my life. Now, I definitely was attacked by the devil when I started doing stand-up because I was denying God at the time. Now, partially this was because of the fact that stand-up comedy is very, very secular. My favorite stand-up comics that I get compared to all the time were secular, and I believe all of them are on the left. I don't think that there's a single comedian that I've really enjoyed that has not been an atheist and pretty liberal in their views. But then again, this was back in like, you know, the 70s and 80s and 90s. So it's like, you know, what is liberal now? It's like, if you don't believe in like cutting your genitals off, you're a fascist, right? Well, yeah, liberalism has taken a really dark turn. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that things aren't going to get better until you can just accept the fact that you're uncomfortable and just deal with it. Just deal with it. Just accept it. And ask God to help you find a positive way of dealing with that. And the most positive way that I can deal with it is to make jokes, write songs, create, you know? So, you think that depression would motivate you to like self-destruct, you know, and I think in a lot of ways it does. But if you can figure out a way to use it, it can be such an amazing gift that you would have never expected. Because in the secular world, they'd have you to believe that anything inconvenient or uncomfortable makes you a bad person, or it makes you a weak person, or like you should feel sorry for yourself, or you should think you're a victim. First of all, you're not a victim unless you're in a burn unit. Okay? Like, I don't care. I'm so sick of people acting like, oh, they have it so hard. Honey, not wanting to get out of bed. Who wants to get out of bed? Come the fuck on. The bed is amazing. I struggle every day. Now I realize, though, that there's like a difference between, you know, feeling like you can't function at all, like you can't eat, you don't want to do anything but sleep, you don't want to work, you don't want to talk to anybody. I get that. That's what they call clinical depression or major depressive disorder. I saw this yesterday. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but yeah, there was this article that I read about people like not being, not responding to SSRIs. Do you ever consider the fact it's because they don't work? You know? So they're calling it like major depressive disorder, right? Was that what it was called? It was called something else that was like so stupid. Yeah. It was massive depressive disorder, something like that. It was just so dumb. They're covering their tracks. They're covering their tracks because they know that the medication doesn't work and they don't want to accept that. So they're just saying, oh no, these people are just really depressed. Why don't you just call it big depression? How about that? I got BD. That's why Zoloft doesn't work on me. That's why I need a lobotomy. Yeah, these people might as well have a lobotomy. But anyway. Creation is the only thing that's going to fight your self-destructive tendencies, okay? The devil is going to keep fucking with you until you can accept the fact that there's something in your life that you're not facing. Something in your life that's really, really difficult, probably very traumatic. And the more that you run away from that, the more it's going to keep fucking with you. And if you take medication, it's just going to suppress that so you're not going to deal with it in a healthy way. We're not supposed to do that, okay? People that think that, I don't want to just say that they're weak or pathetic or other choice words that I could use to describe them. But, you know, I remember back in the day when I would get offended if somebody told me I was selfish for being depressed. But, I mean, I've never been depressed because of me. I was usually depressed because of the world, you know? So, I would definitely qualify as somebody having big depression, alright? But, like, all that stuff never worked on me because I saw straight through it. But I also felt like there was a purpose for it. Like, maybe I was supposed to be really sad. And I think that it is important to, like, go through that rather than just fight it, which I think most people do. And one of the ways that they fight it is by taking medication. But there are ways that you can just accept the fact that you're sad without becoming a zombie or just, like, tapping out on life or whatever the fuck. And I think sometimes, though, it's like it's necessary to just sort of, like, air yourself out, you know? It's necessary to, like, go through that rather than just continue to run away from it, because you're still going to have to deal with it at some point, and whenever you finally face it, it's probably going to be way worse. You know, I look at it the same way that I look at addiction and alcoholism and all that shit. You know, like, I white-knuckled it. I've quit everything cold turkey. And that's the best way to do it. And that's definitely a sense of accomplishment that you get from that, rather than be like, I did it through Nicorette. And so you have all these issues with people, like, overdosing on nicotine patches and all that shit. You know? But there are definitely, like, you know, natural remedies that you can use that are 1,000 times healthier than, like, all the stuff that's suggested to you. So I'd highly suggest, since I know you have a smartphone, who doesn't? Why don't you use your smartphone to look up holistic ways that you can deal with your problem rather than just run into a shrink or fucking 12-step cult or something like that. You know, like, there are just so many different things that people can do, and I'm not saying that, like, do it my way. I mean, I'm throwing out suggestions here. Find out what works best for you. Don't listen to other people. I mean, fuck, if psychiatric medication works for you, if you think that it works, keep on taking it. But whenever you're, like, more dependent on it than a fucking junkie, don't whine about it.